Take it away.
Play some music, son.
Should we?
Yes, we should. Yeah. Oh, cool.
We're going back to that ditty?
Yeah, ditty.
That one's always fun.
We just made that up on the spot.
I'm gonna use all those parts in the re-recording.
Nice. Yeah, that's gonna be a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I can feel it.
It's a
I'm
collaboration.
gonna sign the release. It's all you did. I don't need nothing from that.
I'm thinking.
Hi, everyone.
Whoa. I can.
What's going on,
Hi,
Jeff?
Ken.
Jeff, tell us what's going on.
There's stuff going on. It's Friday, April 11th. It's cold. Doesn't feel like spring.
It's
Feels
true.
Like winter still. And today we are very fortunate to have with us Boris Pelekh from Boris And The Joy. And
We are
naturally,
very
as
fortunate.
always, Ken is here.
Yeah, as always, I'm here. I know, and I'm starting to do that thing where it's like now I'm playing guitar with people I probably shouldn't be.
I think you should always be playing guitar.
It's very sweet of you to say that. It's very
Sound
sweet,
great.
You know, I don't. There's other people in this industry. Sometimes I tune into their videos, and I'm always like, why is that guy playing with that guy? You know, which is basically how I feel every time I play with Greg. To be honest with you, but you know, it is what it is, right? It's all good. Boris,
It's good to be here.
you did a Circle R session, and I think the first question that we have to ask you was, how did you feel about doing a Circle R session here at Reverend Guitars in our studios in Toledo, Ohio? I mean, what the overall experience? What do you think?
Well, I think the kind of the production crew can attest to the fact that it was so fast and easy, and the reason why is because the room sounds great environment, so many cool amps, and yeah, once you get into that mode, if that's how it's feeling, then it's the best.
Yeah,
No, honestly, like
we knocked it out pretty fast.
But it's because everything just started sounding really good really fast. There was no like tweaking, no like, oh, this amp doesn't sound good enough or whatever. We plugged in, it sounded great. We got through it, first take everything, and it was done.
Now, when was that? Was that in December that we did that?
We did that in November.
In November?
Yes.
Time. How is that possible?
Yeah, it's insane.
That was months ago.
I thought it was yesterday.
And you were on the road in November with who?
I am the music director for these two incredible artists. They're brothers called Nat and Alex Wolf. And we were on the road with Billie Eilish doing some support sets.
Okay.
And when we did that Circle R session, I was actually on the way to our Chicago show, I believe. I remember sleeping in a gas station on the way from here to there because I thought I can just because everything was so crazy flying in here, no sleep. And I had a session the night before and I flew here and then went to Chicago to play the show. And I just like, I remember this very clearly. The drive between here and Chicago, like there was a point where I just hit a wall, not with my car, thankfully, just with my brain. And I just like pulled over on the side of the highway and just like slept for an hour and a half.
Nice.
I remember that almost as vividly as I remember how great the Circle R session was.
I like to. It comforts me to know that whether or not I'm driving around in a station wagon with a bunch of ska dudes and sleeping at rest areas, or whether or not you're touring with Billie Eilish, you're still sleeping in the car at rest areas.
Of course.
Yeah.
That never goes away.
It never goes away. Yeah, it's something. Yeah, I like that. Well,
We don't do that because we can't afford a hotel or we
of
don't
course.
like better accommodations. We do it because we love to do that. Because that's how we started doing this. And we can never kind of
if
graduate from it. We
if you've only got 5 hours to sleep, wasting an hour of that checking into a hotel.
I had an
Why
hour.
not?
I had an hour.
Yeah,
so I was
that's-
just like,
So let's get to here before we talk about this monster guitar tone you have. How did we meet? Do you remember? This can be a pop quiz. Actually, what we should have done is we should have written down our individual answers on paper and see if they were close.
I know
first.
the story. I think I know the story real well. I was touring with Gogol Bordello, which was a band that I was a part of from 2015 to 2023. We had this awesome opener called Jessica Hernandez.
Yeah.
And
man.
her
Detroit, Jessica Hernandez.
yeah.
Detroit artist. Yeah.
Yeah, and right at that time, I was really looking to formulate a relationship with a guitar company. I was playing Strats at the time, which I love, but could not formulate any kind of. I've had problems with their guitars, but also didn't even get a chance to have problems with their personnel because they wouldn't talk to me that much. So I was just like, I want to have problems with you, but you guys won't formulate a deep enough relationship for us to get to the point where we have problems.
Fair enough.
Everything is so superficial,
Yeah.
So I saw and excuse me, and I know he's not even with us anymore, the guitar player. I don't remember.
No,
What-
somebody will chime into the comments because ever since you brought up Jessica, I've been sitting here trying to come up with his name, and I can't either. But he passed away a number of years ago.
To be fair,
He was a believer. He was on our artist roster for a long time. So.
yeah. To be fair, it was a very short stint that she did with us. So,
Yeah.
I had very kind of few conversations with him. But the one conversation I had with him was, "What's that guitar you're playing?" And I remember picking it up, and I was never heard of Reverend before, and I was like, "Wow, this is a real instrument, like an incredible instrument."
So
and I
Jetstream 390, if I recall.
it was during a sound check. I just picked up his guitar. I played it for like 5 minutes. I was like, I got the idea. Put it down and literally went into the backstage, opened my computer, found the Reverend email address, just the info. I was like, hi, talk to me. And then, one
then
thing
we
led
did.
to another, and we started dating.
Yeah, pretty much.
Then you had invited me to NAMM.
That's how I court. That's also
That-
that's how I landed the beautiful Penny Haas. I took her to a NAMM show, and that was it. You know what I mean? Like she kind of liked me until I took her to a NAMM show. Right, LG? Yeah, she's watching. She's like, oh god. Anyway,
that's how you court all of your.
it is.
Yeah. So yeah, it was shortly after that I came to the NAMM show, and then we started working together, and now we're here 10 years later.
10 years later.
Wow.
What did you do before Gogol? What brought you here? All of that. You moved to America when you were young.
Yes, I moved from the wonderful Soviet Union, the Russian part of Soviet Union, in 1991 with my family, and as a kid, and I played music even back in Soviet Union. I started playing classical guitar, which was very actually unusual for that regime. They were producing a lot of classical violinists and violas and cellists, but guitar was not a thing that was like popular or easy to find a teacher in. And because Western music was completely illegal, you couldn't study rock and roll, so you would have to, or jazz, or anything Western. So it would have to be some kind of acceptable type of classical guitar music that, the wonderful Stalins and Brezhnevs were approving of. So it was not an easy instrument to figure out how to get a child into school for. But my parents somehow pulled it off. They found some classical teacher that formulated a repertoire that was okay with the Soviet government, and
That's fascinating.
yeah, I mean, it was crazy times.
Huh.
I remember one time, aside from the fact that we had some when I was a kid, we had some dub tapes with my brother of some Queen records, and 15 times overdub. You could barely hear the chords and the melody or whatever. I remember my classical teacher in Soviet Union, she would have these get-togethers after I would kind of depart from my lesson. I would kind of go, and then these dudes and chicks would just come in and kind of with booze, and I'd be like, what's going on here? It was like an after-hours club. And what I realized when I was older is that it was a secret jam session where they would play Western music. They would all kind of she would be like, all right, on your way you go. And I would leave the room, and her friends would come over with a couple of bottles of booze, and they would jam on Beatles songs, which was illegal.
Wow. That's fascinating.
But during our lesson time, it was kind of studious classical, music stand,
Oh yeah, foot up on the rest and the
everything. Yeah.
What was hey, Bug Eyes here, Eric Sekema. He's over here. You can't see him. He's off camera. What was the Russian metal band that did the
Which one?
Gorky Park?
Oh, I know Gorky Park.
Yeah. Were they around then?
Yeah. So Gorky Park is 80s. Gorky Park is a very famous park. It's like the Central Park of Moscow.
Sure.
I think much bigger, actually. I hope I'm not wrong about that. I've been there a bunch, and actually, when I went back to tour in Russia in 2013, I went to Gorky Park.
I'm talking about the band. Gorky
no,
Park.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. I'm just letting you know what's named after. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was a band that actually kind of spilled into Europe and a little bit in the US, and I think they toured a little bit in Europe.
Yeah.
And they did that whatever, that humongous Moscow festival with Metallica and Motley
Scorpions and
They played that festival. They're one of the only local bands that played that festival. My brother went to that festival. I was so jealous.
Who did you go back there with in 2013?
Hey Guy. So that was a band.
Oh yeah, Hey Guy.
Yeah, that's a band that I had from 2000 maybe 8 till COVID, 12 years.
So in 2013, that was before. Now we don't talk about politics here, but that would have been before the Crimea thing and before everything got weird again. Because I used
1 year. So 2014 is the first invasion. Yeah.
We used to sell a lot of. I had a dealer in St. Petersburg, the Trade House on Nevsky, and they sold a lot of reverends.
Interesting.
It was very disappointing when that came to a close because they did very well, and I still have some artists running around in Russia with Reverend guitars I follow on social media and talk to all the time. Hi, Andrew, and because he watches, he's a good dude. And it's so crazy to me, all of that, because the artist thing and your relationships transcend all that political shit. You know what I mean? And so we have these real human connections that we can't work with anymore. You know what I mean? It's just such a crazy thing. Anyway, total sidebar. So you came here in 91.
I think it's an important topic.
It is. Of course it is. It's definitely fascinating. I mean,
I think everything transcends all the political shit. None of that political shit matters at all. What matters is our personal relationships. And I still have incredible friends in Russia and Ukraine and that I love, that are amazing people that have our love for each other and friendship transcends any of that nonsense. What does that shit have to do with us? Absolutely nothing. We didn't choose it. It was just put on us. You know
right?
what I mean?
No,
It's like,
I know.
like,
No.
whichever side you're on, it doesn't even matter which side. The whole thing, the whole complex. Like, who the fuck needs it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
The only thing that matters is this, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Everything else is
100%.
bullshit.
So what brought your parents to this country to bring you here as a young man?
The political shit.
The political shit.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. Of course.
You know, like we
Yeah.
were Jews, not even full Jews. My mom's not Jewish, but my dad was Jewish. There was a lot of anti-Semitism, and it was kind of easier for Russian Jews to escape because you were not allowed to leave. That was like the law. You know, that was the autocracy. You're not allowed to travel outside of the country. You're not allowed to leave. You're a traitor if you do. So. But if you were a Jew, you were able to kind of figure out, establish some kind of ties. And there were organizations that bought, literally with money, bought people out of these situations.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
brought them to, like, you know, Germany, Israel, US, and would actually even support you for a few years until you get on your feet, get you a green card, all this stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. Jews have a lot of money. Well, I mean,
I know what you mean. Though.
We
That
laugh,
is
we laugh
amazing.
that it's such a stereotype, but it's the reason why I'm playing a Reverend guitar.
Yeah,
And you know what I mean? Like
that's incredible.
yeah.
Okay, so you're here. How did your career? Because you have a career. That's what brings you to me. How did your career start? How did it go from taking lessons to being, Boris and the Joy?
All of them together.
Oh yeah.
So to continue the story from Soviet Union, obviously we came to New York, and I continued to study classical guitar, and then just kind of like rock and all that stuff on my own, and then went to Berkeley, studied jazz.
In Boston?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had some really cool teachers, including Wayne Krantz and all these people that were teaching there at the time. So I was very lucky.
My son goes to school there.
That's amazing. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
talked about that. Yeah.
That's an amazing. It is. It is.
Yeah. It's incredible.
I got to study with a bunch of crazy fools and all, and non-fools. And I mean,
did you, because this is always the Berkeley thing whenever we talk to somebody about it, did you make connections there that you still have?
Yes.
Still,
yes.
That, like
yes.
people in this business that went to school with you that still are a part of your life and how
totally
your career runs. I've heard that story about Berkeley alumni over and over again.
Yeah, it never ends.
From so many of our artists too.
I still meet people and then realize they were in my class. Like, it's crazy. But actually, at Berkeley, it was a strange time in my career, or whatever you want to call it, in the stories, because I was really young. I went at 17, and when I got there, I was just like instantly went to see like who are the best guys playing guitar and playing all sorts of instruments, and I was very overwhelmed at first. I was like, wow, the talent level here is absurd. And I actually, at Berkeley, what I did, I made a lot of friends and a lot of connections, but what I did the most is I just practiced. I've never practiced since or before like that in my life. I practiced like 12 hours a day, every day. It was crazy. I was just like seeing I would go to these recitals at night and watch these guys who were obviously older than me as well, but also just so good. And I would just be like, I'm not ready yet. Back to the practice room. Play, hours, months, come back. Not quite yet, still ready. All right, go back to the practice room. And then towards kind of like the end of my Berkeley thing, I started finally being like, I think I'm starting to kind of scratch the surface here. And I started to kind of make more connections and play with more people. And actually at my like senior recital, when I was graduating, I had some like serious cats playing with me. And I kind of felt very kind of, like it's been like a long arc to get there. And now some of these guys are like, like the top jazz guys in the world. So it's crazy how that whole thing went. But I wouldn't say like Berkeley was a time where I met as many people as I did afterwards.
Yeah.
My thing kind of began, I started to kind of like spread my wings after Berkeley. That's when I started touring. And
who'd you tour with first?
Just this punk band called Days. It was me and my buddy, also from Berkeley, that we went to Berkeley together with, and we did the whole like kind of like intellectual punk stuff. We did a bunch of Warped tours and things of that nature.
So mid to late 90s?
2002 to 2007.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And did that for some years. And then kind of after that got a little bit more into the session, playing with other people thing. And that's when I kind of started doing a little bit of Broadway. I played on a bunch of Broadway musicals like Spider-Man and did the American Idiot tour for some years as the first guitar, or whatever that title was called, associate music director, first guitar. That's what it was.
Cool.
And
that's really neat.
And then got really heavy into this band called Hey Guy, because I always just wanted to play original music. I did all the other stuff because I was interested in it as well, and I also needed to eat and feed it, whatever that it is. And but I always just wanted to play original music, so I always kind of like limboed between being like a sideman, music director, guitar player, producer, but then that's like the one side, and the other side was always original music. And during that era was Hey Guy for, like I was saying, for like 12 years. And and during that era I met with Gogol Bordello, and I started playing with them, and that became my kind of my touring gig, my sort of like job, for lack of a better word. But I still continued to do the original thing.
And were you involved in the creative process at Gogol much, or was that more like you being in a cover band? I mean, you playing their stuff.
No, I was involved in the records that were coming out during my era.
They do have a sound. That's why I asked that. I mean,
the sound that was kind of established before my time didn't really stay. Not because so much because of me, because the band was also changing. And so the album that I co-produced with Eugene, called Seekers and Finders, is a very different sound. A lot of like kind of my guitar kind of visions and stuff like that. His songs, his visions, 100%, but also with like some not very classic Gogol guitar approaches. And we co-produced that record, and we made another record that I was less involved in as a producer. I mostly just played on that one. That one's called Solidarity, and those were the records during the time. There was a lot of kind of creative input into those, but that's how it went.
We saw you numerous times with Gogol, and that was a hell of a show. I mean,
always is.
It's
always is
spectacle.
Incredible live band.
Yeah,
so much energy.
Yeah,
very fitting.
Yeah,
for me, as I always kind of saw the stage as a complete chaotic space. So
yeah, you have one of the record high jumps, I think, as far as the Reverend artists are concerned. Just like a standing high jump. It's impressive.
I don't actually play. Everything is on track, so I could really, really focus on that.
I know that's not true, but yeah. So okay, so you had your fill. We can leave it at that. That was and you decided. Well, COVID came along and kind of swept a lot of. It changed the way people lived and thought about things and did things. And did the stuff that you're doing now, did that develop out of that?
Absolutely.
Time?
Yeah. So you couldn't play live. So my thing during COVID was I'm just going to do my own thing because I can't be in a room with other people. So at least that's what they tell me. And so I decided to do a solo project that first just went under my name. Then I decided to rename it Boris And The Joy. And at first, because of COVID, it was just a recording project. So I just produced all this. During COVID, I rediscovered my love for pop music. I got into a bunch of modern pop music, but also started like to re-listen to a lot of like the Bee Gees stuff, and just got obsessed, just like 24 hours a day, and started to make this kind of like sort of, I don't even know what to call it, kind of a lot of pop music kind of sounds like retro these days. It all sounds like it's kind of amalgamating kind of newer concepts with like 80s, 70s concepts of pop music. So that's sort of exactly what I started doing, kind of grabbing some new concepts, but also grabbing some old concepts and making pop music. But then when the pandemic kind of died down a little bit, I was like, now I got to bring this on the road. And I don't want to be an Ableton artist. I don't want to go up on stage with a laptop. So what do I do now that I've produced all this pop music? So that's when I started to really think about, how am I going to play this live? Like, what am I going to do?
And so what made you make the decision not to hire band members?
I never made that decision. That decision was made, the decision was made for me. I played some shows in New York with a band, and that was really fun. And I hired a couple of guys, like my favorite guys in the city, to kind of try to emulate what's happening on the record. But then as soon as I started touring, I was just like, yeah, I can't afford a band right now. So
yeah, that makes sense.
I can't afford a band, and I also want to try to do something. I always loved performing alone. Not more than performing with a band, but there's something completely unique and something, I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it. There's something unquantifiably amazing about being on stage completely by yourself. It's like that dream when you're naked in front of your whole 5th grade class and you have to somehow figure out your way out of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's there's something really beautiful about that moment. And so I wanted to continue to play alone, but I just wasn't sure how to keep doing it without just doing the acoustic thing that I guess everybody does. But there's nothing wrong with it. I love the acoustic thing. Acoustic voice could be so much by itself. But I'm kind of performing that always needs like an arc. I need more stuff happening.
And that's what led you to this.
Correct.
Because this whole week we've just been teasing that guitar, and then we dropped your first video from your Circle R sessions on Wednesday in my inbox, and all of my message boxes are filled on the Instagram and Facebooks. And hey, how's he do that? What is that? Do you make that? Can I get that? What is that? How does he do that? What's going on there? So here you are. So explain to us what's going on here. And how you did it, because I had nothing to do with this guitar. Go ahead.
I'm not Van Halen, so I don't like turn around and tap so people can't see what I'm doing. I actually am that whole story, right?
Oh, of course. You used to go hide behind his amps. You didn't want anybody stealing the shtick.
I'm the polar opposite. I want people to have more ways to create, and I'm so fortunate that I found this way to create, and this is just the beginning. This is going to keep growing. Like, I obviously play, we'll get to it, but I play a couple of instruments at once on stage. But yeah, I want to share it. I want people to do it. I want other people to do different things with it, because what I do with it is very particular to me, but there's so many ways to do it. So the way it kind of came about is I started playing just acoustic, and then I toured with this band called the Way Down Wanderers, who are an incredible band from Illinois. Such wonderful dudes, just unbelievable musicians. And for one of their acts, they had a stomp box, which I'd never seen before. I guess it's like a big thing in the country Americana world, but I just never came in my kind of peripheral. So for one of the sets, I was like, can I borrow that thing? Can I just stomp while I play my acoustic stuff? And I started stomping, and I was like, whoa, this is cool. It has like so much weight, but it's like missing. It's like stomp is so big, right? There's guitar, and there's missing everything here, right? Like all the low frequencies.
So like a kick drum kind of.
It's literally just like a wooden block. They make so many different versions, and they put a piezo pickup on it, and you just stomp it. And however it's mixed in the room, it could be like a huge sound, right? So I started playing around with those, and I was like, this is great. This is fun. And acoustic with this is fun, but it's missing bass. I need bass. Like, if I'm going to stomp, I need bass. And then I started thinking about how to do it. So then I just took a regular guitar and did the old thing that a lot of people do, is just take a guitar, put it through an octave pedal, split the signal, one to a bass amp, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, but obviously played around with those things. They can kind of differentiate. I don't know what the name of that technology is, but when they can differentiate where the bass begins, where it ends. You know, that whole
Okay.
thing. There's octave pedals that do differentiate. They can be like, okay, those are like everything above a D2 or whatever this D is. Don't octave that. Only octave things below. There are
Yeah, sure, of
technologies,
course.
but they're very. No offense to anybody that works in that world. They're very flimsy. They're not tight. They're like kind of some notes get through, some notes don't get through. So I messed around with that, and I was just like, no.
And that can be its own thing.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's a certain chaos to that.
Yeah, no,
And
the
if you're
chaos is awesome.
And if you're doing something like that within a band situation where everything is already anchored down, that can be its own creative process.
Totally,
but that doesn't
totally.
work for you trying to do it by yourself.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
Right. Understood.
So my next thing, so I went through that whole thing for a second with just a normal guitar and whatever, and then I discovered these Line 6 units, and I started playing with them for other reasons. This is an HX Stomp, and what I discovered is that Line 6, and just maybe others as well. I love Line 6 stuff; it's been really good to me. But I'm sure other companies as well have started building octavers that really track. Like this tracks so well in terms of bass that when I first just put a regular guitar through it and I just like nothing is lost, not a single element or just perfect tracking, no latency, no nothing. Every note, like if you kind of isolated like my set and just isolated the bass track, you'd be like, that's a bass track. There's no like, you know, that whole like thing where it kind of like goes an octave, but then kind of like does that whole thing. Like none of that shit. It's just bass, like exactly how it is. And when I noticed how good the tracking has gotten on these Line 6 units, and like I said, maybe other companies are building stuff that's really well tracking as well. I was just like, there's an opportunity here. Like there is definitely an opportunity here to actually do what I kind of always wanted to do in terms of playing guitar and bass at the same time, except actually really make it work, right? So when that opportunity arose or arised, I don't know English. It's aroused. I'm aroused. I'm a reverend, hence I'm aroused. So I decided to start messing around with it. And at first I did it with a regular guitar.
Yeah.
And the problem with doing it with just a straight up guitar is what I was doing. I was going mono out of the guitar into the unit, Line 6, HX Stomp in this case, and then stereo out to 2 amps. The problem then becomes you can only play what you're playing on bass is what you're playing on guitar. You could only simultaneously play those parts.
Okay.
Right? Because all the 6 strings are going, without using that technology that differentiates.
Right. Understood.
Once again, don't know the name of that technology, but I never loved it because I didn't find it very accurate. And so basically what you are stuck doing is single notes, which is what a lot of these kind of groups, no offense, once again, some of them do it amazingly, but you're stuck doing this single note thing where it's like, you're playing a single note on guitar and that's transferring to bass and that's your sound. You're just like White Stripes forever. And that was fun. And what I did during that era is I discovered this stuff, which is also great on these units, but this is not unique to these units. This could be probably done with a lot of units. Is I started using harmonizers. And that kind of breaks up the idea of the fact that you have to play single notes. I mean, you're still playing single notes, but at least on the guitar side, you can play harmonies. So this is still before I did the 2 pickup thing. So I'm obviously playing a single note. Therefore, whatever is going to the bass side is just going to be a single note. However, on the guitar side, it gets harmonized.
Okay.
So when it's all together, it sounds like this. Well, I'm also playing octaves here, but I'm not. and like that.
That's the guitar pickup. Still.
Yeah. So this is
That's
what I'm
amazing.
still.
Yeah.
So that's what I discovered, and I was like, wow, this is fun. But I don't also want to be locked into harmonizers all my life and be like a harmonizer artist. Like I want to. So then I was just like, so what's the next step? And somebody had told me, and somebody put me onto this, like, yeah, there's some people that make these like Frankenstein things where they like do guitar and like a bass pickup separate with separate outputs. I was like, has anybody done a half one? I just want the first 3 strings or the last 3 strings, whatever you want to call it. I don't think there was ever got completely solved. I think some people still call this 6 and some people call this 1. Doesn't matter. The top, the bass strings, right? D A E. I wanted. That's amazing. So Siri loves the split pickup. So, the idea was, has anybody made like a half pickup? And the buddy that I was talking to was like, I'm not sure, blah blah. But he was a luthier, and he was just like, let's try it. And he built this pickup. His name is Chris. He's an amazing, incredible luthier in Queens, New York. Highly recommend him. He built this pickup. I think he took a pickup and kind of just like cut it in half and rewired it somehow or whatever, and routed it to a separate output.
He cut a pickup in half and rewound the 2 coils.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so what we get is, now I have this instrument, which is stereo out into this HX Stomp, and then stereo out, 2 separate channel out into 2 amps. So what I have is this push pod here to put the bass on and off. So this is, let's go to a normal guitar tone. Well, not that normal, but somewhat normal. This is just the guitar. And then I push the pod. So the thing that I discovered with this is that the thing that I really wanted to do after I discovered the harmonizer is I wanted to figure out a way to play bass and guitar and have different voicings happening, not just to be locked in. Like a harmonizer just like says, here's the root, we'll put a 3rd and a 5th in this key. And actually I figured out a way to work with harmonizers where I can kind of trick it to actually play odd chords, because my music is so odd. I could trick harmonizers to think that I'm in a mode that's like, let's say like harmonic minor, to get that one chord to be the quality. You know what I mean? Because my music is not diatonic, so like the chords are really weird. So that was a problem, and blah blah blah. So all these things, I was like, okay, harmonizers are cool, but I wanna be able to play guitar and not be locked in. So this technology, it allows me to have voicings up here that are not affected by the bass pickup, and I could still play bass lines. And that the thing that we started with is a perfect example of it. So I'll just play it again. This is a song of mine called Vultures. And it's a perfect example of what we're talking about. So up here we have these voicings. Just like... And down here we can have a bass line. And then when you put it together, so obviously this song is pretty diatonic, so you could technically do it with a with a harmonizer, but you'll never get this separation of obviously the guitar player. The guitar part is just flowing, and the bass line is moving, and then you have this kind of stuff where I play these specific voicings, and I'll talk about them. Where so you can play voicings that don't kind of the guitar part doesn't rub with the bass part.
Yeah.
So I'm specifically always avoiding the D string.
Okay.
Unless that's the bass.
Right.
So I have like a voicing like this is an A minor, so I'm only playing the bass. And up here. Never playing the D string because that would give me bass. So it's to isolate just a single bass note. Super fun. I have a song called Riot Fire, which gets really, really fun where with like separating the bass kind of in a more loud way. It's fun.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun.
It's so fun. It's like it's.
Did you get the amps in the shot just to see what he's running? He's running through a Car Rambler on the guitar side and an Aguilar Tone Hammer 500, which are things that we have, here at Reverend. Obviously, that we do a lot of the car stuff here, but we've had a really good relationship with Aguilar over the years too. They make nice stuff.
I love those guys.
When you take this out on the road, do you use live amps on stage?
I do.
You bring stuff with you?
I do. I mean, unless I'm like flying to Europe and doing something crazy, I always like beg one of my buddies to lend me an amp.
Yeah.
or backline an amp. Like,
yeah.
It's because, I mean.
Well, moving air is part of it.
You have to move, especially when you're by yourself. Like, there's certain things you can get away with a band that you can't get away with by yourself. You need to feel mighty on stage for all the times that the kids bullied you as a kid. You have to get on stage and be loud. Otherwise, it's just having it in the ears or in a monitor is not. It doesn't make you feel mighty. You have to feel mighty. You're by yourself. You're naked. Everybody's laughing at you. And you have to have force. Like, that's what I know. I mean, this is the things that I've learned from doing this for many years. I've been touring like this for 3 years. And there's just certain things you have to have. Like, sometimes I can't get a bass amp. Like, I'm somewhere in Scotland and I can't get a bass amp. I'm just like, oh, it's like it's killing my might. I'm going to be naked. Everybody's laughing at me and I can't do anything.
What's your go-to rig if you bring everything with you? What do you use guitar and bass amp-wise?
I usually backline a bass amp because I don't like to carry although this one is amazing. I don't like to carry a small bass amp because I really want the place to shake. You know what I mean? So I also play a kick. Obviously, if you watch the video, I also play a kick. And while I do all of this, I play a kick drum. So I want the place to shake. You know what I mean? So like carrying a bass amp, since I'm by myself, I don't tour with a crew. I tour completely by myself. So I don't want to be like lugging a bass amp. So most of the time, backline a bass amp. I mean, the bigger it is, the better it is for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the bigger and
Yeah.
But in this case, this sounds great. And I just use just like a Blues Deluxe.
Yeah.
This
Wait.
sounds great. This
That is a really, really, really nice Blues Deluxe, or probably Vibroverb. I think would be the what they were going for there, because it's got a really nice tremolo built into it. Hence calling it the Rambler. But yeah, no, Carr makes really nice.
It's
indestructible.
It sounds great,
too, by the way.
I also try to play tones that don't sound like classic guitar tones. I kind of almost like carve some things to sound like synths almost.
Yeah, you've got some.
Yeah, I
unusual.
use a lot of weird phasers and octavers up, meaning on the guitar side.
On the guitar side.
Yeah, I'll just blend in a little bit of octave to get it to get some
increase the spectrum of EQ that you're
yeah.
filling.
Yeah, totally.
And so do your songs, this just, I don't know, do you have to tap dance, do you have to toe dance on your line 6 during songs? Or are you pretty much ready to go when you start? Because you're holding down the kick drum with one of your feet.
So
as well. It's
a really good question. So that is a really, really good question. It's something that I've been actually working on and solving for all these years. So the problem with the kick drum is not only am I playing a kick drum, I play heel up, right? So there's 2 techniques. There's the heel down, there's the heel up. I play loud because I want the room to shake. So I'm heel up. When you're heel up, you need this foot to balance. You can't be pressing pedals with this foot because you'll fall over. And I've tried it. So the only way to switch tones is with the same foot that you're kicking with, unless like you have like a back pedal or like a heel pedal. So what I've been doing is largely Van Halen it, meaning one tone the whole song.
Yeah, sure.
Just like playing differently to accommodate the section, just like playing more quietly and more like I do a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm watching. Yeah, you do a lot of hybrid picking.
Yeah, I do a lot of hybrid picking. Like, so I do a lot of that stuff to kind of calm down the dynamics and stuff like that. I've messed around with, like I was saying, heel pedals. I've looked into like these days you can get MIDI to respond to it gets really funny. You can get a respond to blinks. You can get it to respond to chews. You can have a MIDI signal that is activated by a chew, like going like this. You can have MIDIs. You can turn pages with your face, like some Broadway classical people turn pages by going like this. They're like playing and they go like this, and the Bluetooth device responds.
I don't know how have I gotten this far in my life and never heard of that. That's rad.
Yeah. So
no shit.
You can do it with your eyes. There's like you can like blink and shit. It's fucking wild. Anyway, my show is so high energy that none of that would work because I do all those notions at once in one given section of a song.
Yeah.
So it's like so for me, none of that stuff would work. It would be way too if you're sitting very quietly in a Broadway pit and you're going like this, I'm sure it's great. But when you're like trying to like blink to switch tones, like that's never gonna work out good for anybody. So I've tried like some heel pedals. So basically, that is still a work in progress in my set. Like I said, a lot of times I'm just Van Halen it, playing one tone through the whole thing.
You can come back when you figure it out.
I have a lot of stuff that I've been working on. The beauty of these MIDI controllable non-real pedals, I love real pedals, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say anything bad about them, is obviously it has MIDI, and once you have MIDI, there's all these possibilities like I was talking about.
Yeah, sure.
But there's also Ableton and things like that, which once you click things, it can switch tones for you. It can... Yeah. And I've done sets like that as well. I've messed around with technology like that as well. Never tracks.
That's amazing.
Never tracks. Tracks is not my thing. Nothing against people that use tracks.
No,
absolutely.
I hear you.
But as far as being on a timeline and being like, this guitar tone gets switched here to this patch, blah, blah, now Ableton is switching your vocal effect, blah, blah. I've done stuff like that to a click. I've messed around with stuff like that. I don't bring that kind of a rig to small gigs. I do have a rig like that ready to go, but because I'm crazy and I work on stuff 24 hours a day.
Of course you do.
So I do have an Ableton rig that I've worked out that does switch all the tones here, makes it less like having to play the same tone throughout a song.
Yeah.
And once I already have an Ableton thing running, it's also switching vocal effects, and I mean, it's turning on the microwave, so like the leftovers start getting heated up and so forth.
That's well, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So hold that guitar up again. This is a bayonet from
It is
probably 2015, 2016. So, I mean, it was one of the first guitars you got from me, wasn't it?
Yes,
I would imagine.
Yes,
This era, the flame top. Yeah.
This was my backup to the one. That one got stolen. You know that whole story.
The orange one.
Yeah, I love that thing. It still hurts. But this was the backup. This was the backup to the orange one. And I have one more of these because I had one in Europe as a backup because I only flew with one with Gogol. Anyway, so I have two of these bayonets in this exact color, and I love this one. This one's great.
I think a Hyper Vintage rail hammer in the bridge and a Nuevo 90 rail hammer in the neck, if I recall. And or did we ever? We didn't swap out the bridge pickup on that, did we?
Not the bridge, but I think these are P90s always.
Yeah. The Nuevo 91, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because those originally came with two Hyper Vintage pickups, if I recall correctly. Although we did do a handful of different versions of that model over the years that we were offering it, and we've sort of settled into putting a trem on our Warhawk model. Now you'll have to try one of those too.
Warhawk,
Yeah,
isn't? Yeah. I have one. I have a Warhawk.
Do you?
Yeah, the gray one. That's what replaced the orange.
That's what replaced the orange one. You got a trem on it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can't live without a trem. It's like like another limb for me.
No, I understand.
I have this like nervous.
And the Wilkinsons worked out really well for you. I want to once again give props to the Wilkinson people on that VS50. I mean, this unit's been on this guitar this is a 2000. It's late 2010. It's one of the prototypes of the Eastsider. I play this guitar all the time. Anybody that's watching this show knows about this guitar, but it got busted up by UPS pretty good. And I've done hundreds and hundreds of Polka Floyd shows and a handful of Jay Navarro and the Trader shows. When we first started touring, I took this guitar out then, but I'm doing the Pink Floyd stuff. I beat on this trem. And you do too. I mean, you're a very, very active trem user. And the fact that we have this guitar that's been out on the road going on 10 years and this thing that's going on 15 with heavy, heavy use, and those knife edges are still on and the guitar still stay in tune. I mean, just shout out to Trev. Makes a good product.
I do this thing as like a song. Well, these are new strings. It might not work, but I bet it will. Do this thing at the end of some songs where I completely de-string the guitar.
Yeah, of course.
Where it's kind of like so it's kind of like and it stays in tune on shows when they're properly stretched, like this thing. Let's see. There you go.
Yeah, man.
Perfectly in tune. Yeah, perfectly in tune, actually. Yeah. It's more in tune than when before. Yeah, I think the wobbling kind of put it back, like the frequencies of the universe put it back in tune even better than it was before.
Well, if you do a little, I mean, all of that's really a function of having the nut slots filed properly. Kudos to John Zenz and the Texter Reverend for all of that. Of course. But even so, when you release the tension of the strings beyond the nut into the headstock, right, and they slack them, when you come back up, if you just pull sharp just a little bit, it'll restore the balance between the tension on either side of the nut, so you can Anyway, Trem Talk.
I love Trem
Ken
Talk.
And Boris. All right. Oh, we've been going forever. We got to go. But what y'all need to do is you need to check out the Boris and the Joy videos on the Circle R Ranch, and you need to like and subscribe when you check those out on our YouTube page, and share it with your friends. You need to do all of those things. And Boris, what's next? What's next for you?
What's next for me? So finishing up a record with this project called Boris and the Joy, and
are you going into the studio and performing this live?
This first round, no. I've been thinking about a lot of this. So as we talked before, it kind of started with a production thing, then turned into a live thing. Now I'm trying to kind of do the opposite.
Now I'm like, this how to move it away.
Move it back into the studio and be like, whoa, the live show has become almost more fun on the record, like because with all this stuff.
Yeah.
How do I move it back? Yeah, I've been thinking about that stuff a lot. Yeah. So I'm doing a ton of recording, kind of producing this year. I've been touring. I'm in Denver and Fort Collins next week for anybody that's in that area. Next weekend, 17th and 18th.
Wild Woodians.
Wild Woodians, yes. And that kind of ends my spring touring. Summer is kind of being decided right now. And doing some more music directing and things like that in the fall. And yeah, I'm just working on stuff always.
Well, you're welcome here anytime. As you know, I don't have to tell you that.
I just show up.
Yeah,
like I did today.
Yeah, like you did today. Just show up. It's fine. Yeah, 100%.
I love it.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Check out all of Boris' stuff. Boris, play us out. Play us out, man. I'm not.
Thank you.